Hello and welcome to GFD North podcast. My name is Ryan Woodhouse and this is episode 9. Today we'll be interviewing Sergio Seabra. Sergio will be giving a presentation on the Sunday, the 7th of August this year. So head on over to gfdnorth.uk, scroll down and you get a link to Sergio's ArtStation page that we'll be going over today. You can also go to the Gumroad page, which I'm showing you here, and you get a link to the Vehicle Concept Design in Fusion 360. And you can also go to Sergio's website to see more information here. And just to give a quick intro to Sergio. So Sergio is a concept artist from Portugal, specialising in hard surface design. He has a background in industrial design and has over 13 years experience. Recently, Sergio has worked for Cloud Imperium Games on the Star Citizen universe, and now he's currently working at Virtex, helping shape the future of esports in VR. In this podcast, we'll talk about Sergio's early career, go over some of the designs in his portfolio, and have a chat about his design process. So without further ado, can I please welcome Sergio to the podcast. Sergio, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks so much for the nice intro.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm just going to share the screen now and we can just have a chat about your background. So can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Great stuff. Okay, so I can tell you've got a lot of work in your portfolio, and I know I mentioned in your intro you've got a career that spans going back 13 years. That's a really long time. So I was just wondering maybe you could just talk a little bit about your early career and what you did while you were starting out.
Yeah, I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's like the most straightforward path for me to arrive to this like concept design, concept art career. I started pretty late. In concept, I was already like 35, so I'm on my early 40s now.
Yeah.
But so it's been a weird path to get here. I was a musician for 8 years. I like semi-professional. I worked on offices. I worked on hostels. I went back to uni for industrial design. I was already. But when I left, I was already close to my 30s, so it was a weird ride. It wasn't like a planned career at all. It's just I arrived to this very, very late in my life, so this is like my third career. So
that's interesting. And so while you were actually going back to uni, were you also working a job, or did you quit your job to go and study again?
Yeah. Well, actually, when I left high school, I was already in the arts program in graphic design, but I wanted to be a musician. Crazy idea, and so I pretty much didn't go to uni and went straight to get a job and try to pay for my music training. So that was like 8 years of a musical career that sadly at the end I arrived to the conclusion that I couldn't really support myself because I needed to have a day job. I worked in an office, so I pretty much was doing all that. When I went back to uni, I was still working at the office. I was still touring and locally touring and having concerts and rehearsals. So it was a bit crazy time back then, but it was a couple of years of transition where I just I left the band and just fully went into industrial design.
Yeah, that's interesting. I did actually pull from your LinkedIn page that you studied, is it jazz? And you played the electric bass, is that right? Yeah.
I went to a jazz school for electric bass for a little close to 2 years, and this is my training. But then back in Portugal, my band I had an indie rock band, sort of locally famous. Small band. We won a competition and then started recording.
That's interesting. I'm just curious, I know it's got nothing to do with industrial design, but is any of that music actually still online that people can go listen to, just if people want to? Or
actually, maybe in SoundCloud, but nothing. I don't know what happened, but because the label took everything from my
Oh,
iTunes, I have no idea what is happening there. It's been a while. It's been like
yeah,
almost 20 years, so and it just feels like it was another life.
it was a lifetime ago. Yeah, that's very interesting. I think you're the first person I've actually interviewed who's had a completely different career path. I've heard
Yeah,
of I've heard of some people coming into this industry. They say they've left degrees in neuroscience or economics, such like wide a wide range of things where people have switched careers. But I think overall I think it was a great decision because you become an absolutely amazing industrial designer and you've got a solid
thanks.
portfolio.
Thanks.
So you had this musical career at the start, and you decided, okay, I want to kind of move into looking at industrial design. Oh, sorry, was it graphic design and like industrial design? And I also saw that you did a little bit of Learn Squared, like additional learning. So
Yeah.
when did your freelance industrial design career start, and what were some of those early projects?
My industrial design career started like I wasn't really planning because it was mainly because I couldn't really get a job because it was just at the height of the 2008 financial crisis when I graduated. So all the industry was shutting down in Portugal, and I couldn't really get a job locally unless it was furniture design or if he was doing archviz or you know motion. Lots
Yeah,
of
yeah,
people switched to graphic design just because of that, and it was tough times. I had to adapt and go into those like guru.com or at
hmm,
the time and get those crappy jobs like production modeling for
right,
manufacturer, and
right.
I did some weird stuff. you know
I know what you mean. I remember doing some like low-res 8-bit illustrations when I first got out of school. So yeah, I
yeah,
think we've all done those jobs when we first start out for sure. So
yes,
so you're doing
lots
that
of
for
that.
yeah, so you're doing that for quite a few years. So actually, just talking about that, I've got some rims up on the screen at the moment. And so was this the kind of stuff that you were doing during that period, like when you do with that industrial design period before you moved on to like more sci-fi design? Was this the kind of work that you were doing in the early days?
Not really. Yeah, in my early days, yeah, I was mainly doing very assorted projects from furniture to like electronic, like packaging, the cases, doing I don't know baby products. It's just a whole bunch of stuff. So I pretty much my switch to concept was like a rebellion with industrial design because it was so boring for me,
Right.
and I always had I always loved sci-fi,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, um, finding out about concept design for me was also like finding out that I could live off industrial concept design was a thing because in back in Portugal in the before YouTube and before like you would have like some Melbourne DVDs being passed
yeah, yeah,
around and
yeah.
stuff. You would have Feng Zhu starting his YouTube channel in the early days, and before that I wasn't really like couldn't even imagine I could work on concept design. For me it was like some magic like reserved for some like few brilliant
Yeah,
minds,
yeah.
and yeah, it was only for me only 2013 2014 was when I really started to see people. I mean, Feng Zhu posting, Learn Square started appearing. That really opened the doors for me as imagining this could be really a possibility as an occupation for me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, back in the days, I remember even in 2011, I think was when I first got my graphics tablet, and I think Feng Zhu had only just started his YouTube tutorials, and I was learning more from his YouTube than I was from my tutors at school.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
there just wasn't there wasn't even Gumroad around. Scott Robertson hadn't released his books yet, so there
yep,
just wasn't a ton of information. There was no one, right? But yeah, there wasn't just a lot of stuff around, so yeah, that was great. So talking about some of those, so we've talked about the kind of early days and the freelance period. So is there a piece of work here which was kind of like at the very beginning of that transition? Like maybe it was one of these weapon designs or one of these early prop designs. Which one would you say was one of the first earlier pieces of work? So I know we've got the more recent Stars and stuff here. Is it maybe one of these?
One of the earliest was that little helmet thing when I found out about Fusion and
6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. From like Kuchara was doing it, Kirill Chapisko was doing it. Still doing amazing stuff. And it was also the year I came in contact with the software, like 6 years ago, and I started experimenting. This was probably one of my first attempts at doing something like design based for Fusion. So this has a lot of like this Prometheus vibe, sort of like this clean design that wouldn't really fit in on any like game IP or anything, I think. But so
so that was one of those first pieces, just purely just to explore the software, get used to it, and start to put your feelings out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And so now we're moving on to this like Monarch prosthetic arm. So again, this was like 3 years ago. So we're starting to like come forward into the future. So again, like this is where you're starting to obviously explore like more complex mechanical design.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is like very much after that, after the early stages. I went to a stage after that helmet when I started doing all those weapons. I started doing like just exploring design and exploring the software. I started with the weapons, and then this was very later on after that. Even I think I did this even after the hover bike. So I was just experimenting how far I could take this the software in terms of detail and just having fun with the design. Just imagining this stuff. It's pretty much what I get a kick off. I get all these ideas that I want to explore, like make up these little stories, and I try to come up with this stuff for myself.
Yeah. Essentially, some of this stuff reminds you of like your Ghost in the Shell, your Deus Ex, those kind of like cyberpunk IPs that have been, absolutely crazy popular these last few years.
Yeah, I was super inspired by what Vitaly Bulgarov did on Ghost in the Shell. It was amazing work.
Yeah, Vitaly's been doing some great work for years. I still remember when he did Mech. I think it was like a Mecha Day. That was years and years back. In like 2014 or something. It was absolutely mind-blowing when he did that. So I remember those. Cool. So I know you mentioned just a second ago about some weapon designs, and I was looking through the portfolio before the chat. I came across the Nutcracker. Great name.
I like these little jokes that I entertain myself with all these.
This is it. Yeah, you got to sneak in the jokes and things. So
exactly.
So something for fighting. I mean, I don't know if the guys listen to this can read the description. So if you find yourself trapped by a horde of zombies, this is the buddy you want in your backpack. So 12 gauge and frag launcher with some extra touches. So when you produced this, do you have like a particular game in mind or studio that you were making it for, or was it just purely a personal piece for fun?
Yeah, just purely a personal piece. I like to mash up ideas, so I had this idea for a near future shotgun mashed with a rocket launcher and with a melee weapon. So I came up with this automatic drum rocket launcher with a 12 gauge pump action shotgun and a little, I don't know how you call it, a mallet sort of on the handle, sort of a small axe that you can crack.
Crack the skull. Oh yeah, I can see
some zombie skulls.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, almost like a knuckle duster or something.
Yeah. And that one also,
Yeah, I do have to say though, the only thing I just noticed, I don't know if this is on purpose, but there is actually a gun sight. Yes. It's been blocked by the ammo drum, so I don't know if the gun sight can see through the ammo drum. So I don't know. Maybe we'll have to think about that.
Yeah,
one,
that was a weird add-on. Yeah, because I was imagining, maybe you can use it without the rocket launcher.
Yeah,
but no, I don't know. It was just an add-on that I had. I was like, why not?
Yeah,
it just makes it not functional at all.
Well, actually, I think maybe what you could do is maybe added a camera at the front and maybe made this a video feed scope. That would be cool. But so I also noticed as well that you started out with silhouettes. So is this the usual way you start out your weapon designs? And do you usually start with like a side view silhouette before moving into fusion?
Yeah, normally it's like a fast way to evaluate like the proportions and just think of shapes like in its like purest form on the read. Sometimes I just go and do some just line work instead of just using silhouettes. It's pretty much the fastest approach for me.
Yeah. So we go through like a bunch of those before you commit to anything.
Yeah, because committing, especially on a software like Fusion, is really committing. If you want to change something, it's tough. It takes a lot of workarounds. Not like polymodel where you can just delete a vert or delete an edge, and you have to use booleans in a smart way if you want to change something.
Yeah. I did actually use Fusion for a little bit just to explore the program, and Moi as well. And you really do have to make solid shapes, and you're either cutting into it or adding onto it. So it's you can't just go in there and kind of just like smush verts around and still get a render out somehow. You got to be really careful. Okay. So we covered that one. I think another great design that I saw before the call was I really liked this pump action heavy pistol. It's just got such an interesting like graphic. Just overall form language and silhouette. I thought it was just a really strong design overall. Cool. And I can see as well. I mean, some side views here. So I'm assuming this was the same process then. Did you start again in just like a 2D side view just to get those shapes looking really nice before you went into Fusion?
Yeah, pretty much started with just the side view read. First of all, I started with the idea of matching up like a shotgun, pump action shotgun, and a heavy pistol, and I started exploring from that point. But I actually went through a few iterations regarding the detailed designs. I just wanted to be something completely it's like a sci-fi Devil May Cry sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But similar process. It's always pretty much I use always the same straightforward process of reevaluation. But when I jump into Fusion, I change a lot of stuff. Fusion gives me that flexibility of moving faces and trying out and try just going through a bunch of iterations until I get to the final design. It's never like a one-on-one on the. It never happens for me that I start with a silhouette and don't change anything on the 3D model. It's just a starting point to make further decisions along the way.
Yeah, because in Fusion you've got that timeline, so you can skip all the way back, can't you, in time? If you're working, say, like a handle, you want to change, the shape of the holes in the handle.
I actually used Fusion in a very destructive way. I turn off the timeline.
Oh, really?
And I just go no timeline at all. So it's just about committing. So
That's interesting. And actually, another question as well is I was really interested in the magazine design as well. So how does this magazine work? So are the shells fed up to the top in like a drum fashion, and then I'm assuming there's this pump here. So do you move this with your hand then to feed the shells into the chamber?
Yeah, I mean that would be that handle over there close to the magazine would be like to eject the mag.
Yeah.
It's a quick eject, and then there's the pump action to load the bullets. Yeah, it's top loading on that magazine.
Yeah.
So you can see here my different. Like iterations on this design.
Yeah, so you can see some of those early blockouts here while you used to gain those overall forms and things.
Yeah.
Of the gun shaped out. Actually, you can see right here. So you've got like early stage block out, and then here you're starting to add in those negative shapes.
Yeah. Just starting to find more of the design features that really define like the uniqueness of the weapon.
Yeah.
So it's all about finding these design details and try and echoing them through the design so it's coherent.
Yeah. You can also see some other principles as well. So we've got like angles and alignments, and there's like the most detail around here as well, where you got like large areas of like empty like rest areas as well. I also love these very small, tiny details as well you got going on around the handle area. These tiny little form changes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's always like strategies to bring more interest in those areas and try to make it more suggest complexity. You know?
It's really interesting, and I can see in this shot as well, he tries to dress this thing up in a gun case, and almost looks like you just in a game, some guy on like the black market in the cyberpunk world or whatever is just opened it up and like, hey, do you want to buy this? So,
yeah,
that's awesome.
The specialist case.
That's it. Okay, all right, that's awesome. Okay, so all right. So maybe we've got some of the other guns. In fact, I think now we could just have a quick look at that TekoGlider tutorial as well.
Yeah.
And I know we mentioned it briefly during the intro that you've actually got a gun mode going over the process in this. I know we're just talking quite a bit about fusion. And so with this, when you started out, I know it says in the description you're looking at a lot of things like gravity and hydrodynamics principles. So do you spend quite a bit of time then just like doing research into how things work and all these different principles before you dive right in? Does that help you, push the design forward then?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I picked up in my industrial design training. I always research a lot and try to keep up with like what's coming up new in materials and technology. For this, I wouldn't say I researched much. I had a general knowledge of these sort of principles, but then again, I wasn't really sure if this was gonna work. I'm not an engineer, so I was just going on a limb, and it also started with a mashup idea of trying to make a vehicle that is not a spaceship or a plane, that is like a water vehicle, and that it's a mix between like a sort of a sail boat, a catamaran, and a hover boat in sort of a propulsion system. But instead of using a sail as the propulsion, it uses like the solar energy collected from the sail to power these gigantic
these fans,
the gigantic fans, and it would be moved sort of using sort of the ground effect, the ground effect. I think it's called.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
the ground effect effect, and also using like the weight, the counterweight of the gravity from the sail as like a way to propel it forward. Then again, would this work? I don't know. I have no idea. It was just a crazy concept that I thought of exploring, and I had a lot of fun with this. Also, recording the tutorial was pretty interesting, and this project took me a long time to do, just because I was doing freelance at the time, and then I was moving country and
so were you moving jobs. So were you moving from like Portugal to the UK then at the time, or?
Yeah, so I had to stop, and it was like on and off. It was about 6 months from start to end on this.
Wow, that's a long time, 6 months.
Yeah.
Chipping away this thing in the evening. And for the people as well listening, you can actually go to this on his ArtStation page. It's actually recorded. He's got some stuff on YouTube where you can actually see him going in a model, say, some of the hover fans. So
yeah.
So 6 months, I think that's.
I went pretty crazy on also the level of detail on this, especially these propulsion fans. It was just the propeller engine. I just went crazy with the detail on this. It was just super fun for me. And I was just geeking out on this stuff, which is what gives me like a kick out of this. So.
I think it's great for your visual library as well. I'm sure by the end of this you could probably model one of these in your sleep, right? You've seen it that much.
Probably.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's just lots of reference, and I was going changing the engine, making it a little bit unique, but using lots of reference.
Yeah. I mean, actually, while we're on it, I don't know if you do have any, but do you have any tips for using Fusion? Or is there anything that you've picked up on, maybe just 1 or 2 tips for people who do like using Fusion that maybe you could share? Because I know you've gone into detail here.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you could maybe share, any useful tips with people?
Yeah, I mean, Fusion I think it's quite easy to pick up because there's I don't use a lot of like shortcuts in Fusion. I use one shortcut, which is super easy, which is like they call it the design shortcuts, which is just the S key. And it's like a context-based shortcut menu that you like customize with the tools that you use most. So it's pretty much just changing the way you think. It's like very counterintuitive if you're coming from like poly modeling, because it's just building. It's like a Boolean machine. You just build the shapes and add, subtract, divide, split. It's simple commands, and you can start working pretty fast with just one shortcut. That like context menu shortcut stuff. It's cool. My tip for working on concept is really turning off the timeline, because it's just, if you start messing up too much, like moving around stuff and starting to change decisions far ahead in the process, you mess up the timeline, and it's just the timeline will like lag a lot. If you're starting to work, if you want to work fast, I would turn it off. But Fusion is great if you're looking for shapes in the start, because you can grab a face, you can move it, you can rotate it, and Fusion adapts. It's not like poly modeling when you got to go and grab the edges and see if everything aligns. It gives you that flexibility at the start.
It's great.
Yeah, there's much to talk about Fusion. It's super complex, and for me, I basically only use it on one workspace over there, which is the like the solid workspace, because Fusion is super complex. It has you can even do poly modeling there. There's like a sculpt workspace where you like pull and push edges and verts and to get more organic shapes. Even has like sheet metal workspace. It's a super complex software.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just curious, out of curiosity, have you ever had any of your designs 3D printed at all, or just made into like a physical model?
I actually did a few, like some freelance work that I did. It was like doing real weapons, which was kind of crazy. I was asked it was like invited to do like how do you call it? It's not like mass-produced weapons, something that you like being mass-produced, but it's more like for the custom
like one-offs.
Market. Yeah, it's for a guy that was like he would do shooting competitions and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And he actually had some of those weapon designs printed. I'm not sure if I can show it, but at least I had that. Nothing for like from my personal projects I had printed.
Oh, okay.
It'd be a cool experience maybe in the future.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, actually, we can jump more into some of those weapon designs after this. But if anybody does want to go and check out the process for that, you can just go to Sergio's Gumroad here. So that's gumroad.com/I. Well, I've got it right here. So Seabra-designs.gumroad.com. So you can go, you can actually get that Gumroad tutorial there, you can watch it all. So going back to the portfolio, so I know you just mentioned about some weapon designs, so moving to a little bit more chat about one of these. So another one that I came across while I was having a look through portfolio, I believe, was let's have a look here, was this one. I thought this was quite interesting because of the, well, first of all, just because of the overall size of it, but also these canisters, the pressurized CO2 system on top.
Yeah. This was one of the first weapon designs I did on Fusion, and actually my knowledge of weapons wasn't very broad at the time, and I really wanted to do a weapon that didn't look like it was a weapon at all. It would look like it was like sort of those space weapons where they have to 3D print every component, and it's like super functional. It's not like that super cool gun design or anything. So I was going for that with this super industrial looking elements on this weapon. And it's always fun for me to think about different firing mechanisms or propulsion technology. And this one is quite cool because I was thinking maybe the whole weapon is 3D printed. You can pretty much manufacture it anywhere, but also the main main piece from the body is like a 3D printer in itself, and these canisters on top is like a ABS plastic and super fast drying plastic that the weapon prints bullets instead of
oh, that's interesting, right?
That's why there's no magazine here or not load. This is like the bullets are in liquid form, and this is like a 3D printer for the bullets, and the CO2 is just a propelling firing system.
That was cool. So the gun's literally printing the bullets as you need them in real time.
Yeah.
I think that's the future right there. Actually, say that, I think maybe the person carrying the weapon could a larger version of these, that's maybe belt fed. So you get this this pipe or this hose or something that feeds into it.
That could be cool.
Just continuously, maybe there's another guy that carries a gigantic CO2 backpack.
I have a huge backpack with
with CO2 or whatever.
That would be cool.
Yeah, or even a spaceship design where you've got the two the bullet system and the gas system feeding into design. Yeah, really interesting function and actually pretty unique. I think it's one of the first ones we've seen with this kind of function. So yeah, it's quite different.
Yeah,
it's
I
cool.
was having a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Okay. And then with this one, I can see it's built for Juggernaut, so the scale and how it's handled and everything else has got to be totally different. I can see as well you actually did this alongside the late Michael Nash, I believe he passed away not that long ago.
Yeah.
And so he gave you a sculpt from ZBrush to work over the top of in this one.
Yeah, this was like a collab project with Mike Nash. I did a short mentorship with him, and we became friends. And he was working on his Juggernaut design. It's like a huge tank build armor guy. And he had this gun done in ZBrush, which it pretty much it was like a sketch of a gun, of like a cannon when he had it with some suggested detail. And he wanted me to go and do a tertiary pass on it, just polish it and come up with interesting details, just to bring this to fully realized state, so it could be printed. I'm not sure if it actually got printed. I think he printed his version. I'm not really sure about this one. But yeah, it was an interesting project. It was a nice collab.
Yeah, so
I have the whole process there also from the start.
Yeah, you can see there you've got the ZBrush mesh, the decimated thing, and it's going in and adding that geometry, just cleaning up the shapes and adding, like you say, that extra level of detail.
Yeah, it was all about just rebuilding and also thinking what these components would be like, because it was just a blocky mesh. I had to really think about what was the function for them moving ahead. Yeah, it was cool. It was a fast project there.
Yeah. I assume when you're designing a weapon for Juggernaut, you kind of think, well, okay, I mean, you don't really need to have, I mean, you don't really need things such as handles, because I guess the robot's arm or the Juggernaut's arm could be the gun, or the hand can be any shape or whatever. It can just be a grasper.
Yeah.
So the entire thinking process needs to change. Same as if you design it for like an alien hand, right? So you totally throw out all the ideas of ergonomics and everything else, and I think
there's like no, that's why there's no handle on this, and there's that little part in the middle. It just rests in the Juggernaut like shoulder. It's just hold like an RPG.
Oh, so it actually goes onto the shoulder of the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Oh, here. So here is the shoulder mount, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. See, I saw the slot in the back and thought it slotted into place. Like,
no, it would be like there's that little handle on top.
Yeah.
That you would hold to position, but it would be like grasped and like shoulder mounted.
Yeah. It's quite interesting when you design for robots, because you can really start to play around with like shape and the scale, and also things like how it will be held. So I think that's always an interesting thing to explore. You don't actually see many pure Juggernaut or mech weapon designs. At least I don't see that many that often. It's not just doesn't seem to be something that's tackled that often. I always think it's interesting to think about that stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we've already had a quick chat about that one. Let's have a look here. So, Paragon Tactical EMP.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this one's actually really quite far out there. I mean, you've got this section in the middle, so I'm guessing this is the thing that generates the EMP then.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like an energy gun. It's just like energy rays, I think. This is also one of my first ones, and just looking at it, I would change so much stuff about this right now.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, maybe we can chat a bit about that. Is there anything that you would do differently then? Now looking back, is there anything that you don't like in particular?
Yeah, the way I added detail back then wasn't very informed. I would probably change some details, like in the front of the barrel, like on top of there's those little dents on top of that little super detailed piece that I would probably change. It just feels a little bit out of place over there. That's the thing with this with building your portfolio, is that you make this stuff and you start to live with them for so long, and then you look at them and you just see stuff that can be improved, but you don't really have the time, and you just feel like, maybe I should take this down from my portfolio.
I think that's true for everyone. I think everyone feels like, looking back at work that's quite a few years old, you do think to yourself, well, I could do much better. And I think that question's always in your head is, should I go back to that piece and redo it? I know there's some people that do that. They go back to an old piece and work into it, applying what they know now, or you just create a new work. So there is always that in the back of your head. But I think as well, even back then, you were still exploring the overall shapes in silhouette first, right?
Yeah. For this one, it's pretty much the same process. The only there's like a step in the middle where I did like a sketch in 3D code, just mashing up and destroying the shapes, see if I could come up with some interesting areas just super quickly.
Okay.
That's pretty much the only difference.
Yeah, so a bit of like 3D code, then into Fusion.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's pretty much rebuilding from scratch in Fusion.
Yeah. Now this kind of like quite far future technology. I'm assuming at this point you're kind of starting to move more into towards like the stuff you're doing at Star Citizen. And I saw this piece, this medical. I'm not sure if it's a lot. So I could see this medical bay art test. I'm assuming, well, you started working there, so I'm assuming it was a successful art test, and the guys liked it. So,
yes, I got the job.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. So
I guess it was successful.
There you go. So just talk a little bit about this. So I can obviously see you were tasked to design some medical beds, and there's some maybe patient scanners or something that shows all the patient data. So what was the general ideas behind this then, and how long do you have to get this done?
I think I had a couple of weeks for the test, and the way I approached it was also trying to see what's not on Star Citizen. And well, I did these medical beds, and well, they had like on the roadmap to do medical beds.
Yeah.
So I guess it fit right in there.
Yeah, it's interesting. And
Yeah,
I think
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I feel like with a lot of the Star Citizen stuff, they always seem to take just say, in most sci-fi universes, they always take just your standard medical bed. But I feel like with Star Citizen, they always push it a little bit further. I know for one of your other medical bed designs, the entire bed like raised up and down on like a lift system, which I thought was really nice. But yeah, so just sticking to this, so I can see it as part of your test as well. You needed a lot of material call-outs, and I know doing interviews with some of the previous guests who also worked at Star Citizen, they do pay a lot of attention to trim sheets and details and the materials, and making sure that stuff looks really nice in the game and looks really realistic. So I can see that you've done like call-outs and everything in this shot here.
Yeah, I mean, Star Citizen is one of those games that is the visuals are super well detailed and treated. Everything's like super thought out in terms of manufacturers. If you're talking about the ships, there's very like a lot of coherence that goes into coming up with those ship designs and keeping the languages between manufacturers coherent. But even for the rest of the stuff, is always everything is made to look very like realistic and real world. So the attention to all these details, I think it's very important. Yeah, so this prop actually made it into the game, which was cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, like you get the thing you made for your art test built directly into the game. But yeah, it's that attention to detail, like you're mentioning, that everything has to feel believable and it works, and you can even see there's all the like all the little fittings and the cut lines as well, and and everything like slots and fits into place, and everything generally feels worked out and believable as if it was made for real.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's always good. So bringing that onto the more recent pieces you did for Star Citizen. So I know you did like a ton of others again. So you see some other stuff. So you got like this wheelchair design. So when you guys were going like back and forth over these props, like how many rounds of how many like roughs did you go through before you like say, okay, this is the kind of the general direction you want to go for, or did you not have that much time to explore like a lot of different options?
I mean, it depends. It depends. I'm not sure exactly what I can talk about this without breaking NDA. But okay. It depends if you have the language already established. It depends on the design requirement. There's a whole department that decides what the design is going to be not in terms of the visual design, but in terms of the game design. What's the functionality the props are going to have? Like these props, like the wheelchair and like the gurney, they would have to move. They would be have to be carried around. There's some requirements for them. I've seen people like taking out ships with these gurneys, which was interesting. There's a lot of consideration, and in regards to the medical bed, it's a whole new. It's not like a prop that's just standing there. It's a prop that's like the central piece for the whole medical gameplay in the game. So you go through a bunch of iterations until it's put in game. Even after I delivered my part, what made it in game. It's not exactly one-to-one to the concept, just because decisions are being made while you are working on the pipeline on these props, and they changed it a little bit even after the concept part.
Yeah. That's interesting. And so when you're working on these different props as well, I can see you're working alongside like a few different people. So while you're working on these, so will you be passing this back and forth between some members of the team, for example, Chris Duretz, and were you guys working with each other on the props?
Yeah, I mean, this one were all me. in terms of like ownership of these designs, but it's like when you're working on a team, there's always like feedback being shared and ideas being bounced around, and it's sort of like a courtesy to credit these people for the work you do while you're on the team. It's not exactly that I had a ton of back and forth on these specific props. Some stuff there's more back and forth. Not exactly on these. These were just tasks assigned to me alone. But just it's a collaborative effort. You get feedback from the art directors. You get feedback from your peers. You get peer reviewed. It's just
So for those. So for those people breaking in, so sometimes you will have to work with other people on the team, and you kind of, you're all trying to chip in and working at a design that's maybe more complex or whatever, and then sometimes you're just given the task of, okay, you're the only guy on this particular prop, and you've got to nail it, following the art direction or the style if it's already established.
It depends. It really depends. I mean, not every company works the same way. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're working more independently. Sometimes you're working on a task that is the whole team. It really depends.
So now we've got another version of that high-tech medical bed prop. But this we can see there's a lot of detail as well that's gone in. So you've got the healing scanner that slides across the side there. It's these little additional functions as well, which I think really push it. It takes it from just kind of what you would expect, just pushes it a little bit further, which I really like.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that was definitely a successful design here. Yeah, it was lots of all these functions were like design based functions that we had to put into one bed, so it was a bit challenging to come up with all this at the time.
Yeah, that's cool. As well, were you also tasked with providing like the animations as well, or was that just be done by somebody else? So I know a lot of this stuff, it slides out and you've got like the healing scan which comes up and back. So were you animating all this as well? Was that done in Fusion or something else?
Oh yeah, normally you provide the animations to the rest of the pipeline. So, but I brought the mesh from Fusion and animated in Blender. It's much easier, also because Fusion doesn't have that ability that I know of.
Okay.
Just to animate it like that. I mean, it has the functions to do animations, but it just takes so much work. And if you try to bring a character in on the animations, a high poly character or something like that, it would maybe be problematic.
Yeah, exactly. So animation's done in Blender, but modeled is still in Fusion, right?
Yeah. Cool. This was all Fusion.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Okay. All right, so we've gone over some of the stars. Oh, wait, I think have we touched on all of it? I think there's another one here. So, all right, so this is like the low-tech version.
Yeah.
So you've got the high-tech version there, and then the low-tech version.
Yeah.
So the low-tech version, really, I mean, you're looking at, so there's like slightly less functionality. You've got a material change. There's the font language as well feels a little bit clunkier than the high-tech version. So these are all kind of like visual cues to tell the player that, okay, this is a product that's probably, I mean, it looks like an old computer, right? It looks like Windows 95,
Yes. Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun coming up with a look for this, because I was really looking to like old photocopy machines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like old hospital equipment all has that same vibe.
Yeah, this is it. I think down here, this is where you put your floppy disk in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. Well, no, it does remind me of that stuff. Maybe you got to plug this thing into the internet as well from your telephone. But but it does look. But it does tell all these things. It does. I mean, jokes aside, it does tell the player that this is an old piece of technology.
Yeah.
Everything from like the color to those like clunky shapes. So I think that's a really interesting way to sell it in the game. And even the chair as well. It's got like kind of that old plastic, cream plastic look as well.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I don't know if I saw the high-tech wheelchairs. Is it this guy? Oh yeah, obviously. So you got this like sleek, fancy, Mac-looking thing versus, 90s fax machine wheelchair.
Yeah.
You know, for sure you're never going to make it out of the hospital alive in this guy, right?
Yeah, you probably want to get your tetanus shot if you're gonna sit on that chair.
Yeah. I think you probably catch more from this Windows 95 chair than the high-tech one. So I always go high-tech. You know, you get what you pay for in life, as they say.
You're probably not gonna get the best drugs on that hospital.
No, for sure. Yeah, you want. No. Anyway, yeah. So awesome. Okay. All right, and I think as well, which I thought was quite interesting, was this Fat BOIII design, because it's like totally different from everything else in your portfolio.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've seen this. It's like a more of like an American car. Is it based on like an American car or something?
Yeah, this is like a Ford, a 1951 Ford F1 like pickup truck.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like it reminds me of like an old American style pickup truck or something. So you've like taken that and like made it into this badass kind of street style customized thing. And this was just like a personal project, just to re-practicing some parts of Fusion, or just for fun. Like, what was the reason for this?
Oh yeah, this actually I modeled this truck just when I was learning like poly modeling back in like was 2014. I was learning Blender poly modeling, and just to prove myself that I could do something like this, I modeled this truck like with extreme detail from like photographs. So I actually have it on the marketplace for free if people want to download it.
Oh, awesome! So is this on your ArtStation marketplace? So people go over and this one.
I think so.
Yeah, so if people want to go check it out, it's right there for free. Yes, so just go. And if people are interested, you can just go there and grab this guy. So that's the full thing, the original, based on reference that you can grab.
So
and there's also that the glider as well that you can grab as well from ArtStation if you're not a fan of Gumroad for whatever reason. But yeah, there you go. So the Fat BOIII Ford F1.
Yeah, and then I was having a little fun just reusing it and relearning again last year Blender. So this was all just Blender. We trying to come up with a cool body kit on this and make a cool animation.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Cool. Okay. All right. I mean, I don't think we've actually had a look at. Did we chat about the hover bike? I don't think we did. No, we haven't.
Nope.
No, we definitely haven't. So I noticed as well in the description that you made it into 3D World. So congrats for that. It's always awesome to have your work published.
Yeah,
and we've also actually got this motorbike design on the GFDnorth.uk website. And for sure, it's one of my favourites. I'm just curious, was this inspired by a particular motorbike? Did you base it off, like, say, a Ducati or something just to start out and then, like, change the shapes? What was the initial inspiration behind this then?
Yeah, I mean, not any specific motorbike. I was definitely looking at Ducati bikes and, I don't know, many bikes, many super bikes, because I really wanted it to have this super bike, sort of like supercharged super bike look on one end. And so I was looking at some super bikes, but was also trying to find its own like flow design for these shapes.
Yeah. And as well, I could see in the video, I mean, you've got this little process video for to scroll down and play this for people. There's a hell of a lot of work in the engine section. And one question I sent over email is there any way that you can save a bit of time by kit bashing in Fusion? How does that work? So I know you mentioned that it's actually quite, well, it's impossible just to quickly just pull verts around because everything has to be cut into this side or the other. So can you just say if you have a bit of engine pieces, just to save a bit of time, can you just import those and stick them in? Or
I mean, yeah, you can build a kit bash quite easily. For this one, there's no kit bash. I totally geek out on these metal, like, sort of engine details, and just making up engines that they just look they work. They don't actually need to work. So I was looking at engines and trying to make my own engine out of these little parts, because it's not like it's like a mini microjet engine. So it's like a. How would I explain this? I'm looking at this not as thinking, oh yeah, this would actually work. I'm looking at this like, what would look like a super powerful engine, and just add some pieces that would suggest that.
Yeah.
So Yeah, this was a fun project for me. This was actually at first I was doing this for ArtStation competition, the Metropia
Yeah.
2042. I was trying to come up. I had this idea. The idea for this bike actually came from me just wondering because I like to mash up again, as I mentioned, and I was thinking, oh yeah, what if there was like a cyberpunk version of Lord of the Rings? What would like the NazGul, the Black Riders would ride in like the cyberpunk world, and that's why it's called the NazGul, because I was just thinking
Yeah.
about this version of a hover super bike.
Yeah, I did read that description. I thought, yeah, that does. I'm pretty sure those are the guys in the black capes that ride the.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called, wyverns or something. I can't remember the term. I don't know. But yeah, I thought the name was pretty unusual. So you can see in the video, there's just an absolute ton of detail work just going into building the engine, and also that rear. I mean, you want to call it like a monopod or rear foot pedal that that supports the rear of the bike when the engines are not engaged. There's all this detail as well, so you can go to the video and check this out. Like there's a great shot here. You can see some of the rear foot pedal, the rear foot coming into play there, and the piston system that supports it, and everything else.
Yeah,
really
yeah. When I rendered this first for the Metropolis challenge, it was like a terrible render. My rendering skills were not like doing justice to the design, and actually I did like a mentorship with Alex Seneschal, which was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really nice, and he really pushed my rendering skills forward on that. And I re-rendered this, and it was a totally different design, and it was the exact same design. The only difference was that I removed that little the little direction wing. I don't know how to call it now in the back.
Oh, here, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing I did.
Yeah, I guess it's like a plane's aileron, is it?
Yeah. I just removed that. Everything else is the same design, just different rendering. Just made a ton of difference having it rendered properly.
Yeah. So here we can see the wireframes of the overall thing. If you just scroll up, we've got some renders. So here's some renders of the hover bike in the film. So I can see as well you went for these kind of like almost like Matrix style hover plates.
Yeah.
Which drive the thing. Yeah. So anti-gravity plates, the next step in technology. Can't wait for these guys to come out for real.
Yeah, I wanted it to look like wheels, so that's why I kept the round shape. But maybe if I was doing it today, maybe I would change that. I would change that front hovering part maybe a bit. Yeah, it's one of those things.
I think the circular wheel shapes is quite cool. Quite cool shape. What kind of design do you think you would go for if you went for a second pass then? Like maybe just something angular, or?
Yeah, so I think something closer to the front arms. Like there's that part that comes out, that shaft from the wheel. Maybe something closer to that shape.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's always difficult in it to say what an anti-gravity piece of technology should look like. Because you're always balancing between your mind is, okay, well, what does the audience already know in the past that they're familiar with, where they build, they accept it as anti-gravity, and then how do you like push that into something that they haven't seen before, maybe, or do you explore like a completely different shape or piece of technology?
Yeah.
To explain that, because I mean, there's many different ways I guess you could go with. Okay, this thing makes this thing levitate off the floor and it looks this certain way. How do you sell that as a design? I think that's always one of the trickiest things with science fiction, because in some ways you have to kind of explain it to the audience. I mean, I guess with a hovering vehicle, you could just say, okay, well, this part of the vehicle just hovers, and when you go to show that in the film, you can just get away with it by just showing the thing flying, right? But I guess trying to make it feel believable is always the hardest part, I guess, as a designer.
Yeah, I mean, I think people can take like floating vehicles very well now from all the movies and stuff.
Yeah,
but it comes out to comes down to the design details. Like for me, if looking at it now, there's a little bit too many screws, and it feels a little bit more low tech than I would like. It's those little taste things. So that's very subjective, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just my way of looking at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could always do an alternate version where you have some of this stuff covered up with another body piece. Might be quite easy to do. But then again, I guess the rear foot does have to move somewhat, so you'd have to make some room for this piece here.
Yeah, I really wanted that contrast, having a part that's more like iRest and super like with panels covering, and another part that you can just see the whole mechanics, just to sell the engine power.
Yeah, it also goes back into that visual principle you were talking about before with the gun design, where you've got an area which is actually quite high in detail, and then large areas of rest where there's the panels and you've got just the angular shapes like flowing into it. So from a graphic point of view, you've got a little bit of that going on as well.
Yeah, for me it's all about that, the flow, finding the flow in the shapes and making the eye travel through that flow in those shapes. It's where I get a kick from also, just finding these shapes.
And I haven't seen I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I haven't seen any, but did you start out the same way as well, purely by doing 2D silhouettes, or did you already kind of have something in your head and jump straight in?
Yeah, actually in the video you can see I instead of doing that on this one, I jumped in starting sketching in on grease pencil.
Oh yeah, in Blender, yeah.
Yeah, so I start doing like a side line work, but because it's 3D, I start like moving around and starting to figure out how this is gonna work and judging the proportions. So it's all about finding the right proportions for this.
Yeah, you can see that you're designing that rear chassis and how this thing is going to support itself in the rear section.
Yeah, exactly.
Front forks going in. And
it was the first time I did this on my processor. I like to experiment a lot and try out new stuff.
Yeah. I'm just curious, have you tried this with VR? Like, have you done anything in VR yet with the headset at all?
No, this is just with a Wacom tablet.
Yeah.
I haven't started exploring VR yet, but it's on my list. I'm probably gonna try that next.
Yeah. Sadly, I have got a VR headset, but I've used it like twice.
Yeah,
and it's just sat on the shelf. No, because I mean, I actually I'm starting to do a little bit more prop design, but I'm mostly doing environment work, right? And it's just quicker for me. It's just been quicker just to go straight into 3D. So I've got a headset. I've used the thing twice. Anyway, but yeah, that's really interesting. So again, if people want to check that out, they can just go to scroll down. It's also on his YouTube page. Definitely go check the process out for this guy. Okay, so we're actually just coming up to 1 hour. Do you have any? Well, first of all, do you have any other pieces that you'd like to just go through before we wrap up at all, or?
No, not really. I'm gonna go through all these. I think I'm gonna talk about my journey in more detail and talk about my work in a bit more detail in the conference. So.
Great stuff. And oh yeah, and by the way, so I've got one last question. If you could have any of your concepts built for real, which one would it be and why? I'm hoping it's not the Nutcracker.
Why not? Why not?
Maybe we could go for the super the 95 chair, right? I don't know. So which one would you pick?
I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough choice. Maybe the hoverbike would be cool to have on my desk. That would be nice.
So yeah, I think I definitely have to take the NazGul hoverbike for a spin. That would be really interesting.
That would be cool.
Definitely get this. Yeah, definitely
with a very strong helmet.
Yeah, maybe maybe a very like near future armor's jacket as well to wear with that thing.
Yeah,
I guess this guy goes pretty fast. That's awesome. Great stuff. Okay, all right then. Thank you very much, Sergio, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Cool.
Great stuff. And if everybody wants to come listen to Sergio give a presentation, so he'll be giving a presentation on the Sunday, the 7th of August this year. And you can head on over to gfdnorth.uk, just scroll down, you can get all the links to Sergio's work, his Gumroad and his website, you can go and check that stuff out there. If you guys want to buy the tickets are actually now available to the public A big thanks as well to everyone who pre-purchased these in the months leading up to this. But you can, if you want now, you can go to the ticket page to purchase tickets. If you're interested in listening to the podcast with our previous guests, we've now got 8 episodes, 9 including this one that you can go listen to. And if you're interested in just keeping up to date with what we're doing at gfdnorth.uk, you can go to the sign up page and enter your details there. But that just about wraps it up. So thank you, Sergio, for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right then, cheers everybody. My name's been Ryan Woodhouse. Goodbye.